Hello. Hello. Can you hear me? Boogs. Boogs, boogs, boogs. Hi, I'm Caitlin. I'm the Asset Store Manager for Unity Technologies. And welcome to our little Asset Store session. I see that this is kind of a thin crowd today, but probably because of the party. I'm a little nervous. And they always say that you should imagine your audience naked or in their underwear. But I don't think that would make me feel any more comfortable, actually. So I'm just going to try to imagine that you're unconscious. Oh, if you're wondering what this cheesy video was in the background, I found this Mind's Eye videotape. I don't know if you've seen this, but these are old computer animations from the 80s. And watching it, it just reminded me of how far we have really progressed. Like this stuff, you know, this cost a couple hundred of thousands of dollars to produce. This required programmers, you know, setting the keyframes and the kookiest, craziest data structures. And we've just come so far now. But that's not really the core of my presentation at all. It was just some pre-show stuff. And it's pretty funny looking, too. I mean, look at that. I'll switch over to my PowerPoint. OK. Just bear with me for 1 second, please. You guys having a good show? Yeah. Yeah? That's cool. Me too. And do I just do this? Yeah, it worked. OK. So yeah, I'm the manager of the Asset Store. Today, I'll talk a bit about what the Asset Store is, why it's meaningful, a little bit of its history. We'll have Ian Dunlop, who is one of our content specialists, come up and talk a little bit about the best practices for being a successful Asset Store publisher. And then we'll have a testimony from some of my favorite sellers. OK, let's see. So let me just give a little background on myself, because I'm conceited and arrogant. So I started with Unity back in 2009, or the end of 2008. I was half the support and QA team. For a while, I was the sales team, or half the sales team. We were very small when I started. And we've gone really far. We've become much larger, and it's really exciting to be here. So I have a background in computer science, art, and film. I studied at UC Santa Cruz. I had a very exciting career. I've worked with companies like Fractal Design, which became Meta Creations. We made Painter and Poser and all these things that are now kind of well-known. I worked for PC Gamer magazine. I worked for Interval Research, Paul Allen's big fancy think tank. I designed slot machines for the gambling industry. I like bunnies. But I have a very dark secret. There's something that I am very ashamed of, and I feel like I should talk about it to you. Something that I have very strong personal feelings about, and something that I think is important. I am a failed indie game designer. Yeah, it's terrible. After I had my lovely career, between then and Unity now, where everything's fucking awesome, I had a bumpy spot. I tried to start my own little game studio in Germany called NanoBrat. And I had a bit of a rough time. And I've always thought one of the best ways to learn in life is to let life knock you around a little bit. Make some mistakes, take some chances. So I started my little studio called NanoBrat. I got a nice little grant and loan from the German business development board called the Gesellschaftsentwicklung or something like that. And yeah, so I set out to make this game. I was going to make a game that was the coolest game ever. It was going to be my dream game. And it was going to be like part Psychonauts, part Zelda, and part Earthbound, which in my book are the coolest games ever made. And at that time, in 2006, everyone was saying the indie game developer is dying. They're saying indie game developers have no place in the industry. They're saying that we could not compete, we could not be effective because these large studios and consoles are dominating the market. So I felt very much like fuck you, I'm going to try what I can do to counter that. So I got a game engine. This was before I discovered Unity. And I started this game. And it was called Sleepy Sushi Service. And I'm a bit of a do-everything person, so I did modeling and code, and I actually did a lot of work. I booked a sound stage. I recorded a couple hours of voiceover work. I hired freelancers. I hired programmers. And I had about 15,000 euros to work with. So at some point, it started to dry up. So where did my money go? I spent about 5,000 euro on artists, studio time, actors' fees. I hired a professional composer to make music, both like theme music and like little action loops that would get exciting when you get into a little battle scene. Programming support, and it was mostly guys in a kind of a hobbyist community who wanted to do something more exciting, and then tools and middleware and associated software. It stacked up, and I'm the first to admit, my game plan was insanely ambitious. I had this idea it was going to be the coolest game on earth. And then I had this epiphany. I was down to my last 300 or 400 euros, and I'd paid an artist to model this like sofa, this kooky cartoon sofa where a core part of one of the introduction cutscenes happens. And I realized I'd paid this guy about 300 euros. And then I realized my own sofa in the real world was something not unlike this, something I found on the street. And I was like, fuck, I could have a nice sofa from IKEA for the same amount. Why am I spending so much money? At that point, I decided to cut my losses short. I learned about Unity. Someone showed me this top picture of the team, and I thought, these guys are so elite. Look how cool they are. This engine's got to be good. So I switched over and started using Unity. And as soon as they had a job, there was a job doing QA and support. And I'd done these things before. And I flew to Denmark. And I was like, you guys got to hire me. You guys got to hire me. And I came on board. So I started doing all kinds of stuff. But Nicholas Francis, one of our founders, and I would say one of the visionaries behind Unity's very artist-friendly workflow, had talked about the asset store, the idea of the asset store. I got really excited when he did this. And in 2010, development on it started. In 2011, I started to play an active role in its management and eventually became manager. And I just want to talk to you about why it's so important to me. But by the way, my experience with my game failing, my failure really taught me a lot about what you guys need, in structuring the content in the asset store and the way that we approach serving you with it. I really look at like serving me back in 2006, Like I look at things that we have on the store now, and I think, I actually might have had a chance had I had the asset store back then. So I've kind of gone from feeling like this about myself and my failed indie game to feeling kind of like this. Sorry, there's going to be more bunnies. Just brace yourself. So here to help you find solutions, find ways to remove these obstacles that are in your way. Because there's so many good ideas out there. So many of you are so smart, so creative. You have fantastic ideas. And the reality is that like 99% of everyone's beautiful ideas get shelved, or they get canned, or they never get past the prototype stage. For stupid reasons, for financial, logistical reasons, or technical limitations, limits to your resources. As I see it, you should be able to be like a writer. You should be able to be a 1 or 2 or 3 person team and make something beautiful and wonderful. Because that's, it's important. games are important, and even though sometimes they seem kind of throwaway and cheap, I get a little corny about it, but I think they're going to be regarded as a very important part of human culture. We've had nothing like this in our civilization's history before. So it's super important that you guys can make the games that you need to make. So I just threw up here some of the problems that we encounter in game development. It's highly technical. The Unity game engine, to a degree, solves a lot of that. You don't need to write your own renderer. Highly audiovisual, so there's a lot of graphic design and visual design, which can be also quite technical. It's expensive. Historically, it's been quite expensive to do. And it's been legally actually quite complicated. And maybe many of you haven't directly experienced this, but a lot of small developers out there encounter legal problems. They'll maybe hire freelancers or contractors, not execute a proper legal document. There's a dispute. I've actually seen games shut down and cease production because of a dispute between an artist and the producer. So with the Asset Store and with Unity, we're trying to provide technical solutions. We provide the engine for you, makes life easier. On the Asset Store, you'll find things like shaders, artificial intelligence libraries, tools to help you laying out your levels. You'll find that everything on there is relatively reasonably priced, actually. If you compare the price of, my sofa example. I probably could have found a sofa. Well, today I could find a sofa on the Asset Store for $5. I probably could have stuck it in Maya, put some lattice deformer on it, make it look cartoony, saturate it a little more, maybe add some kooky textures to it. And I would have had my $350 sofa right there. So the solution, it just makes everything a hell of a lot cheaper. And everything on the Asset Store is legally clean. So if you hire a freelancer or something, and you don't have a lawyer or you don't have a standard contract to work off of, you're actually putting yourself at risk. And you can find yourself with a great debt. You can find yourself putting something at the core of your game, only to find out that the person who helped you make it feels that he or she is entitled to 20% royalties, or wants a lot more once it comes out. So the Asset Store protects you. And ultimately, it's about this goal of, this is like my ideal self, bunny here, by the way. It's just about letting you succeed, letting you be a successful artist. We're in this industry because it's meaningful. And aside from the money, it's playful, and it's engaging for those of us who have scientific or engineering minds as well. It's the best of both worlds. So we need to be successful with it. So that's enough about me and my experience. Let's talk a bit about the Asset Store itself. So we opened in 2010. We've got more than 8,000 packages now on there, and many of these contain a lot of other assets. About 3,000 people are selling content on the Asset Store. Artists, programmers, sound designers. We're actually getting, quite shortly, we'll be taking in one of the largest music libraries from Hollywood to bring this into you, and this is going to be like 400,000 more packages. The whole thing is crazy. We're just looking for the content that you need to get it in there. And yeah, we have over 400,000 registered active Unity Asset Store users. So it started out as something that we thought would be a little bit cute. We thought this will, even if it doesn't make a lot of money, it should be at least useful. But it's actually turned out to be highly profitable. And you can see, looking at our charts, that everything's growing. And there's charts here I can't show you, which are also growing at pretty much the same rate. But let's talk about what's inside the Asset Store. One sec, slide out of order. Oh boy, sorry. I need a bunny. Well, I'm supposed to have a video here, but it's not playing. Now you get to see it all. Okay. Well, let's just go over some of the stuff briefly that's on the asset store. Oh! Do I want to fix this? One moment, please. Sorry. Derp, derp, derp. Okay. So I think you might have seen this little video that we threw up at the keynote. So this is just a small sample of some of the really good stuff on there. We've got subsurface scattering shaders down the bottom left. We've got some rich environments like this kind of cyberpunk environment up in the top left from Manufactura. In the top center there, there's a wonderful 2D toolkit from called Uni 2D with skeletal animations, megafires, Marmoset toolkit, an amazing rendering system for Unity. Characters from the artist named Mr. Nectarus. There's really something there for you. If it's a problem that you've encountered or a need that you have, there's a very good chance that someone's already solved the problem or created a solution for you. And there's a very good chance that they've done it very, very well. Because a lot of these content providers aren't just Joe Schmo artists. Some of these people are serious guys. Like we have an artist on the asset store whose name I can't say just to protect his career, but he is a senior artist at Ubisoft. And he's been a senior artist there for over 10 years. He has some fantastic artwork. It's top selling. It's in the asset store. And he contacted me and said, last month, I made over $10,000. This is more money than I've ever made in a single month over my 10+ years at Ubisoft. Thank you for helping me, survive. Thank you for helping me, for giving me an option where I can employ myself and I can actually fare better than slaving away in a studio. I mean, even though senior artist at Ubisoft is a cool-ass job, he communicated such an importance in being able to create work and sell work that's meaningful and exciting to him. So I think it really goes beyond just selling assets. I think we're looking at something that's much broader. So yeah, we have characters. These are just a couple of my favorite. I really like this fat zombie guy in the top right by Arabian Art Studio. And we have this Alice character from Piccolo. But I mean, we have hundreds of these. This is just a drop in the bucket. Just beautiful things. This isn't really beautiful looking or exciting, but I think it's kind of a cute story. NASA Ames Center in Mountain View, California, had a game jam called Dark Side of the Jam, and part of the objective was to use NASA's artwork, models and things that NASA has built and collected over the years. And so we participated and gathered a lot of their models, cleaned them up for Unity, and put them on the asset store for the game jam users. But it's there too for any of you who want to use it, and it's free. NASA's pretty cool like that. A very popular provider and seller on the store is Manufactura, which this is probably nothing you haven't seen before because his art is so stunning. His art is absolutely stunning. He's a single guy in Poland who has started his own business. He started publishing stuff under his own name, just here and there, and now he's branded himself as Manufactura, and he's really gaining a hell of a reputation. And I see his art now in both production and prototypes of beautiful-looking games. Just some more from him, from Manufactura. I mean, it's like a painting. And you pair these up with some, with depth of field and shaders, and oh, hey, there's video. I didn't realize that I had video there. How nice. Guys like Dexsoft. This is a great studio that's, or kind of content aggregator that's been selling content for a while. We've got a lot of their assets on there. This is their Cave Creator Kit, which is a beautiful little modular snap-together kit for making caves. So we've got all kinds of these now. We've got dungeons and Egyptian tombs, and we've got things that, hotels and corridors that you can use to make a vast interior. Just some more great stuff. Massive Black, which is a pretty well-known design studio in San Francisco. They have some things for sale in the asset store. Not a lot, but some good stuff. If you like fish, I like fish. We have fish. Algorithmic has their fantastic substance databases in the asset store. So if you're looking for procedural substances, procedural materials that are very compact and customizable, you can find almost everything there. Music, I told you how I dropped about $1,000, or 1,000 euros rather, on music. Something that many designers really underestimate the value of. And I had to do things. I had to send my music back. I had to do retakes. Because you're trying to communicate what you want to a composer, and if you're really lucky, they'll get close. But chances are they won't. And it's hard creative work, and it feels terrible to send something back and say, well, make it perkier, or make it a little faster, or this needs to have more tension, or crescendo, or something. So we have music providers that are selling music on the store right now, and you can preview the music, and again, this is going to grow enormously. One of the biggest sellers, of course, is editor extensions, things that give Unity extra functionality. And I personally see myself as like the closest thing we have to an opponent to our core product, to the editor. Because the asset store thrives where Unity sucks. Wherever Unity has a weak spot, you clever people ingeniously make a solution to fix that. Our GUI system has some weaknesses. We've developed a whole huge industry around, on the asset store around getting around that problem. Or things like voxel terrain, things that people want that Unity does not yet have. These are a few of my favorites. I really like Tidy Tile Mapper. It's a very intuitive tool for laying out tiled levels, smooth moves. This is one of a couple of skeletal animation systems that we have in the asset store. We have a number of 2D tools on the asset store, some of which are going to be displaced by our new 2D system, which I'm probably also the one person in this room who doesn't like that. I do, but, So, but people still are creating features that we don't yet have. And if there's a solution that you need that you've rolled for your own game, you can come sell it through the asset store. So in-game modeling through GameDraw. B2M, this is a really cool extension from Algorithmic that lets you generate normal maps and basically all the maps you need, material maps, from a single image. Node-based visual editors, for those of you who don't want to actually open up a code editor and would rather just make your game logic visually. And yeah, GUI systems. We have things like Uniswift, which lets you design your interfaces in Flash, if you are so inclined. Oh yeah, Easy GUI is our first GUI solution from Brady Wright. I don't know if he's here, but yeah, he was actually our first big money receiver, so I mailed him this ridiculous large check. This is actually quite old. I mean, today, if we were to send out such a huge novelty check to our best paid asset store provider, it would be like $90,000. And that's like after a month. NGUI, totally super amazing solution for creating GUI systems. And one of the things I love is that we haven't just created a place for people to sell something. We've actually created an ecosystem where people are creating products, and then other people are creating plugins for those products. So NGUI has a number of products from other people that plug into it, like FastGUI here, that lets you, it's kind of a bridge between Photoshop and NGUI. And you just know you're doing something right when your middleware gets middleware. Okay. Oh yeah, and one last thing, I just kind of threw this in here. This is kind of new and cute, but if you're like me or like me in 2006, and you are in the position of needing voiceover work, you can actually crowdsource it now through VoiceBunny, which is a service that we've affiliated with on the Asset Store, that actually has like some of the same voiceover artists who do voices in like some of the top games. I think they have the guy who does Max Payne in their catalog. You can actually send them a script online, and then it goes out to their pool of voiceover artists in their home studios, and they're all professionals. And you put the criteria like, I want a woman who can speak with an English accent, or a little Mexican boy with a strong accent, or the In a World guy. And they have this database and this repository of talent there that are just basically sitting there in their home studios. And ding, it comes in, and they record the lines. Every one of these people are professionals, and you have it. Quite often, you'll have the voiceover work in your lap, like in a matter of hours. And it's quite affordable, too. So, I mean, I told you I had rented a studio, like a sound stage, well, a sound studio. And I had a technician, and I had artists, and I had to direct them myself. And I was kind of winging it. But if I'd had this service, I would have been set. So if you are looking for voices, check out VoiceBunny. It's super cool. It's just a cool new business model. So next, I'd like to talk. Actually, we're going to discuss keys to having a successful asset store package. But I'm actually not going to give it to you, so I'd like to present to you a bunny. No, I'd like to present to you Ian Dunlap, who is one of our amazing asset store team members in San Francisco. Ian is, if you submit something to the asset store, there's a good chance that Ian's the first one to see it. And there's a good chance that he'll write back to you with a little scolding note saying, hey, this isn't in order, or that's not in order. He's got an eagle eye, and he dances really well if you saw him at the party last night. So, are you good?
Yeah.
All right.
Hi, everybody. So yeah, great. Thanks to Caitlin for explaining a little bit about what we do at the asset store. And so now I'm going to talk to you guys about what we like to see in publishers and how what we've seen makes you guys just better approachable to our customers and how you can have a successful package. So a couple things. First off, I'm going to admit, she set a really high standard of having bunnies in presentations, and I'm just not going to live up to that. So I apologize. So first things first. Most important, establishing yourself as a publisher. We have everybody that signs up as a publisher to the asset store has a publisher page where you can tell a little bit about yourself, who you are as a developer, who you are as a professional, links to your site, links to your previous work. We love to see all of that. We love to see you guys tell your customers who you are, what you like to do, what quality of work you have before they even get to actually see your work. We feel like that's probably one of the best approaches, just to immediately establish yourself. So in that case, graphics are key. They, just nice presentation, nice quality, all of that again. Join our forums. We have a really big and continuous community on the Unity forum, subsection Asset Store forums. Introduce yourself every time you put a package out. We like to see people make posts telling everybody what's out there. A lot of the big issue we see with publishers is just general exposure. We do our best to promote everybody as much as possible and get everybody's names out there when we see really good content, but in the end, it really comes up to you guys and how much work you are gonna wanna do just to get yourself out there. And we feel like any means or any forum for you guys to announce yourselves, promote yourselves is a great opportunity. This kind of ties in the same thing, but so sell your assets before they're sold. Make sure you have as much information about what's in your package as possible. Let people know what you're providing for them, why they want to buy your package, why they should, spend their money and integrate your content in their game to make their games amazing. So let's see what I put. Okay, so second one, consider how to tailor your content for multiple uses. We see a lot of people who just like, hey, I'm gonna make this one character for this one specific situation. That's great if you do a good job, but in the end, you want to try and be as visible, as open as possible to many opportunities, many developers as possible. Keep in mind who your audience is for the most impact you can have. A lot of issues we see, be honest about your marketing. We see people who are like, oh, this is the greatest 2D camera script in the world. It's amazing. It's going to do everything you need. And then it's kind of a replacement for, our standard assets. So kind of, it's good to sell yourself, but at the same time be reasonable and not cheap out your, or misconstrue yourself for something, whatever, for other than what you've put out there. Okay. Next we have thorough documentation. We see a lot of people who are like, hey, I understand, I made this, I understand how complicated it is, and that's all we need, and that's good for everybody. To an extent, if you have something that's really complex and there's a requirement to, understand A-star pathfinding and understanding these complex algorithms and all that. Not everybody's going to understand it. That's fine. But to, do the best you can, it's good for you to try and make things as understanding as possible, clear, when you have tutorials or documentation, clear step-by-step guides on how to use your content, where they should go for more support, how they can contact you for more information if need be. A lot of, just kind of, again, get yourself out there as much as possible, be as approachable as possible, as professional. What should we have next? So provide excellent support. We have a lot of people who they need help. Sometimes not everything's understandable. We appreciate you guys helping your customers as much as possible to make it the best product possible. So like I said, join the forums, be open, be available, be conscientious of what they need from you, all that. What's on the next slide? It looks like we have some different stuff. That's a different.
Should we just hand it over?
Okay, absolutely. So thanks for listening to what I have to say and what Caitlin has to say. But so we will be at the booth if you have any more questions that I didn't answer. Next, we are going to have some publishers who have done very well. They're going to give their experience about how they've been able to be successful on the store. Let me find your slide. So I'd like to introduce Alex from Alchemy Labs. Yay. Yay.
Thank you, Ian.
Thank you. There we go.
Okay, awesome.
Thank you. So I like to set a low bar before I start speaking up on stage. Just like Ian had a good time last night at the Unity party, so it is the morning after, so bear with me at my voice. Also, this was written about 10 minutes ago. So, my name is Alec Schwartz. I run Alchemy Labs. We're a small, independent, bootstrapped indie game studio. So, when I say bootstrapped, we're talking about self-funding all of our projects, and we don't have a lot of money. We're not VC-backed. We're not angel-backed. And so, any little bit counts. And so, also our key tenet of the games that we make is that we try to find the path of least resistance to create a vision. And the asset store really fits in well for that idea. So in the early days of the asset store, at Unite 2010, I remember when the asset store came up during the keynote and they said, you'll be able to sell things you made to other developers. I looked at my then co-founder and said, we need to put something on the store tonight. Like, we need to go back to our hotel room and put something on the asset store. And at that time, we wrote this really quick tool that for our own development called multi-panel. And it just allowed, it just fixed the issue in Unity where you couldn't select 10, 20, 30 objects and then apply some change to all those objects. Multi-select didn't exist in the editor in 2.6 and in Unity 3. And so we added that. And you know, it did okay for us, and it was the early days of the asset store. And as you saw in the graph, it's, you know, there were very few users at the beginning, and now it's pretty amazing. So the tool that we built after that was called Multi-Platform Toolkit, and we had built that during the development of a game that we were building called Snuggle Truck. And we were porting the game to a bunch of different platforms, and we needed to handle the process of keeping all the platform-specific data intact. So there's a picture of kind of a quick tutorial we gave on Multi-Platform Toolkit up on Unity's blog. But basically, when you think about it, Unity supports all these platforms, but how do you keep one project file able to kind of deploy to all of your platforms and make sense in a retail or in a production environment? So, like, there's a quit button, and you have back button support on Android, whereas on iOS you use the home button. You know, when you're building to Steam and Android and iOS, you need to scale up buttons based on Android, or maybe you're doing 16:9, 16:10, 4x3 support. You want some buttons to align to the edge. You want to remove some things on this platform. You want to add some things on this platform, and this handles the entire build process and hinting of data per platform. So we built this for our own use, and then we said this would be a perfect use case of throwing up on the asset store. Maybe some other people are doing multi-platform development and could be useful to them. So we put it up there, and I have to say thank you to Caitlin and to everybody at the asset store. It's been an amazing resource for us. Again, it's a small studio, so I share some numbers here. We've had the tool on the store for over a year, and we also have multi-panel. And my co-founder here, Devin, he built this tool called Play Mode Persist, which actually solves the issue of when you're in play mode and you make some changes and then you go, crap, I really want to save what I just did. His tool magically allows you to save that data. So this number does not include his stuff because that was before we worked together, but we've made over $40,000 profit on the asset store to date. And, you know, that's a lot of money. That's a life-changing amount of money for, you know, like one of our employees. That's an entire year. That's a salary for people, depending on where you live. That's a good salary to live on. And yeah, we didn't think that tools would be something that provided a really good chunk of income for you know, in our cash flow. We thought it would be selling games, but it's really not the case. This is a huge part of our development. So yeah, I mean, check out the tool. Really glad that Caitlin allowed me to stand up here and tell you guys about it. But I guess I will pass it to Michael, the man, the myth, the legend behind NGUI. So thank you.
Thank you. This one time at Bandcamp. Hey guys, I'm Michael Schenker. I created NGUI. I'm on a couple other things. And if you've been to my GUI session, you probably already know this. So I'm here to talk about my own experience at the asset store, and I don't have any slides because this morning Caitlin was like, "Hey, you want to come up on stage and actually do this thing? Want to help me out?" Naturally, I just woke up and I was just checking my email, and it's like, okay, no problem. My experience is a little. I guess in a way they're the same as some of the asset store developers, but at the same note, they're kind of not. I was basically trying to create a game by myself. Well, originally, I suppose it goes back to me working at GameLoft. We were working at GameLoft and we were using a certain UI solution there that I did not find very appealing. So I figured, hey, I can just create something myself. I mean, why not? How hard can it be, right? So I did. And it was like a very simple thing, but it actually got the job done. And we ended up moving away from the solution that we were using toward this more simple solution. Later on, I figured I kind of had enough of the corporate culture and wanted to just do my own thing. So I'm like, I'm just going to take a couple of months off from work, do like a game or something myself. I mean, games are easy. Right? Yeah. So I started again with the UI system because I needed a UI system that I could use myself. And I created a very first version of GUI. Back then, it kind of sucked, and it really couldn't do that much. Some of the first comments I got from people using it were like, "Oh, this is nice," and like, it doesn't do a whole lot. I'm like, how does this compare to EasyGUI? EasyGUI can do so much more than this. I'm like, well, yeah, I just started, but okay. I kept at it, though. Just, I guess I was kind of powered by the people that actually gave me positive comments, people that actually supported what I was doing, and they liked the ease of use of it. So I just kept at it. And a month later, it was actually a fairly solid solution. At that point, it was actually making something like $8,000 or $10,000 a month. So I realized that, oh, this is actually a decent source of income. Who would have thought? So the game kind of took a back seat, unfortunately. And I decided to focus on the GUI for maybe like 2 more months, just to get some cash flow going and then just whatever. Well, I did. I focused on the GUI. Unfortunately, that also meant focusing on support because, quite frankly, my documentation kind of sucked. I'm a developer. To me, the best kind of documentation is the code itself and comments within the code, and that's exactly what I did. Creating PDFs and all this fancy pictures on websites that explain step by step on how to use certain things, like, that's not my thing. Like, yeah, okay, it's really easy for artists, but I'm a developer. And that was a tool for me. Well, over time, of course, the documentation kind of improved, and I also created the forums to support people that actually had issues. So they would come over there and they ask me questions. Original thread for GUI on the Unity forums was something like 50 pages at the time, and there's absolutely no way that people could actually get the information they wanted from that thread. So forums for support were pretty much mandatory at that point. And of course, examples. Examples help people a lot. If you actually create something on the asset store that happens to be like an editor extension or something more complicated than just like a model, it is a good idea to create as many examples as you can so people can actually look at what you did and they can reverse engineer it to suit their own needs. Well, fast forward a couple of months, the asset store madness was pioneered by one of the people who was not at Unity at the time, Juha. He kind of was inspired by Steam, I suppose, with their sales. And he's like, oh, let's do something like that ourselves. I'm like, all right, I'll just jump on board, see what happens. I noticed early on people were kind of reluctant to join the sales in general because no one knew how good they were. Well, I jumped on board, and a bunch of people also jumped on board, and we made it a success. It's proved to be actually fairly lucrative as far as sales go, doubling, even tripling the amount of income for a month. It's pretty cool. And then, of course, Unity picked up on the idea. And it became a part of Unity. And now we got daily sales going on the asset store. And daily sales are fucking awesome. If you can get in on those, and it's not that difficult, by the way, if you're in the asset store group, you can be like, hey, I want to put my package for like a daily sale, like 60, 75% off. And the chances are you will get featured in the coming weeks. Well, how much money do they make? Well, daily sales, and GUI was actually featured for a daily sale, 60% off. It was like a week or a week and a half ago. It made something like $30,000 in one day. That's how effective they are. A lot of people think, well, you will just put up a couple of assets in the asset store, maybe they'll make a little bit of money. But honestly, if you make something really good, it's gonna make a fuck ton of money for you guys. So I know a lot of you are attempting to make games and think games are where the money's at. Well, that's not exactly the case anymore. Even if your game is awesome, chances are it is going to be a lot more difficult to succeed than you think. I know because I create games myself, and it is often kind of very difficult to get noticed. One of the things I actually created is a game called Starlink. It's a strategy game where you control ships by directing them from one star to another. It's kind of like Galcon, I suppose. And the game itself was released on Android, iOS, and a couple of other platforms. Over the course of its lifetime, it's earned maybe like $3,000 and was actually featured by the free app of the day promotion at Amazon, which is actually pretty cool. They're cool guys. If you could get in on that, I suggest you that. But the thing is, I also released the UI from that game on the asset store. And guess what? The UI from it earned more money than the game did. That's the asset store. That's the power of it. Even if you don't finish what you're working on, put it up on the asset store. If it's good, it will sell. You will earn money. You will have money to make more stuff, which you will then also put in the asset store and in turn make even more money. And the more stuff you have on the asset store, the bigger your reputation is going to be and the more money you're going to make. It's like it builds upon itself, essentially. More stuff you have and the higher rated it is, the better your chances of making even more money. And of course, after you make enough money, you will be able to do what you want to do, like make games. And that's all I got. Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you very much. Would you like to stay on stage and answer? Hello? Hello? Hi. Thank you, Michael. He has just fared so well. And there's many other people who have the same story, the same great success. And it just freaks me out in a way that people are making this their livelihood. It's not just changing your games and helping your creative process. It's creating jobs, really. How cool is that? And you know, if you think about it, if you're an artist and your passion is making zombies, you know, and you've got a job at a studio and they want you to make baseball players, you know, you can spend your life making your zombies. As disgusting and wonderful as you want. Okay, we're going to take questions now. I'm here, Ian's here. You can also, if you have questions for Michael or Alex, we can pull them up on stage. Does anyone have any questions? I can't see, by the way. Throw me a bone here, people.
Hi. What's the revision process like? Say you make something and you get a lot of feedback, change it, and how does that work, I guess?
Okay.
Your first attempt is good, but people want changes.
Well,
how do you make sure you're able to turn that around?
You can always update your, I mean, it's physically, you know, procedurally, it's always possible to update what you've made and keep it going. And I see that several of the most successful things on the asset store have several iterations. Often, the most successful ones are people who are really good at supporting their customers, listening. They set up forum threads. Some of them have very active threads in the Unity forums. Some of them go so far as to create a website for their product and have their own forum bulletin board system there, and really listen to what people want and give it to them. And so we have products which have had a very long life with a lot of changes and improvements. So, and people love it. People love it when you listen to them and when you give them what they want. And then they rant about it on the reviews. They're like, this is excellent support. You know, doing that can just give you a 5-star rave review from someone. You know,
is it possible to just take requests? Or is that not encouraged? I don't know if that's encouraged or not. So that if you're like an artist and you like, hey, who needs what? And,
yeah.
Like just like stump the band kind of thing.
That's a good one. Actually, it's really interesting. One thing I didn't even bring up is Brian Fargo's Wasteland 2 project, which is this wonderful game. And Brian Fargo is an amazing designer. And they were buying stuff from the asset store. and using it in their games very proudly. I thought they'd be a little shy about it, but they were very proud to be using it. And they actually approached me and said, Caitlin, is there a way, you know, we love this stuff. There's things we want. Is there a way we can get people to make stuff, sell it on the asset store, we use it in our game, and then, you know, the people who made it can put a little badge on their product that says, as seen in Wasteland 2. And I thought, this is insane. And I realized this opens up a whole, you know, to throw a buzzword out there, engagement marketing possibility, where people who want to help with a kickstarted game, not only with their money, but they actually want to go in there and help create the game. And so this worked. Brian put up on his website kind of an art Bible and a list of all the different things he wants. Concept art, descriptions, photographs, examples, and people started really getting into it. And we just got a tsunami of submissions from talented people who were just so excited. And now a number of those assets are on the store and for sale. So this was something that we had coordinated with them. We said, look, create an art Bible, create kind of a sample package that we can put on the asset store that contains a template of, you know, your character's height, you know, things like that, a PDF. We put that on the store, and then they kind of ran this on their site, and we helped blog about it and just get attention. This is something we're probably going to formalize in the future as kind of a crowdsourcey type solution, but it won't be as evil as some of the other crowdsource options out there, because everything you make will go into the asset store. So you're never going to be like spinning your gears making a logo for a company who decides they don't want your logo, like the majority of the logo crowdsource services now. Other questions?
What do you do what's the common thing?
Wait, let's get you in a mic. Can we get a microphone? Oh.
So what's the common thing for versioning and payment? Do you typically sell something once and then support it forever, or do you sell something, support it for a while, and then have a version bump?
Yeah, generally when you buy something, you're buying, you know, a license to use it plus minor upgrades. Every once in a while, someone will come out with something that is phenomenally different than, you know, or a huge improvement over their old product, and they'll release it as a successor. But generally, it's expected that when you buy it, you're going to receive regular upgrades, especially if they're support maintenance upgrades. It's only really when you have a whole new brand identity for that product or a really significant new feature do people at times do this. And you know, we're kind of control freaks, and we're probably not entirely consistent and logical, so depending on how we're feeling, we might say, no, we think you shouldn't be releasing this as a new product. But yeah, so. Other questions? All right.
Yeah, is this all royalty-free content? Do you have content providers who are asking for usage rights or time limits or anything like that?
Oh, I'm so stupid. I should have saw. This is one of the most important things of the asset store. Everything on the asset store is royalty-free. So everything is covered by the same no-brainer end-user license. Basically, the artist or the content creator or the sound designer or the programmer is selling you the license to use their product in your Unity-based game. No royalties. It's all covered by the same agreement. They're legally liable to a degree if there's problems, so you're protected. You are in a legal contract with that content provider that has been, you know, thoroughly revised and combed through by some fantastic lawyers in the industry. So you're not going to have any gotchas. You're not going to have this situation where someone says, well, you know, I did this, and your game is awesome and successful, and I suddenly want, you know, 20% of your revenue. Or, used my character and then there was a television commercial and it showed them the commercial and this is some other kind of rights. Oh, sorry. That won't happen to you either. You're protected. So it's one of the beautiful things about the asset store. We've actually had to be quite pig-headed and stubborn about sticking to this because we've had people who are like, well, we don't want to sell stuff under this license because it's in your favor. It really is in favor of the end user. But generally, people find that it's worthwhile to comply to. Yeah. And those who have resisted, come around. Other questions? No? Anyone? Come on. Okay. Yeah.
I have a question to this side.
Oh, great.
You can start.
Okay. Just curious, are you planning to have some kind of subscription model for the assets, the publishers you are selling?
Oh, that's interesting. At the moment, no. There are some online services that are available through the asset store where we might implement a kind of subscription. So, for example, we have, for example, some companies that have MMO backend hosting on a cloud. And we're looking into ways to providing a recurring subscription that we'll have to do some implementation on our back end. I'm looking at our engineer. But at the moment, no. But we are looking for interesting new ways to allow you to pay. We have a new voucher system, so if you are in a company that has a huge evil purchasing department where like the military or big aerospace industry or Disney, or not that they're evil, but you know what I mean? They have a very large bureaucratic process for buying stuff that has to go through purchasers. That's always been very unfriendly to the end user. So now you can go and you can buy like a voucher code and like kind of top up your account. You can fill up your asset store account with $1,000 and then have that to spend. So this is kind of, hopefully we're going to transition this into something that's not just for these big guys, but will eventually be like gift certificates for you guys. So it'll be a new way to pay. Yeah. Yeah.
So you might have talked about that, and I'm sorry in that case I came in a little bit late. But
it's okay.
Are you working on improving the quality of the assets in the asset store? There's still lots of stuff that is just carrying through the project folder. There's stuff that is just not working in new versions.
Yeah.
Is that something you're doing?
Well, yeah, I would say that that's a good question. We do vet everything that comes into the asset store, and we vet for both quality and technical compliance to a set of standards that we have. Inevitably, things do break, and when that happens, we listen to you, and we want to coordinate communications with you and the provider of that asset to get support. And if they're not cooperative, we'll take actions and go into that further to make sure that you get what you need. By the nature of it, we can't personally be the QA department for everyone who has a complex product. So if you have something that does a complicated, shading process or voxel terrain or something, ultimately we make sure it does what it says. And sometimes things break when there's a new version of Unity that comes out, things like that. It's inevitable that they happen. But, we have the review system as well, so we hope that people will share their experiences with other customers and let us know if they're not getting the fixes and supports that they need. Because we do we do act against publishers who abandon their product or don't provide support. And more than once, we've taken people down. But I do want to raise the bar, and I need to expand my team of content vetters a bit, because the volume has grown. Every day we come in and we find 200 or 300 new things sitting there for us to look at, and it's kind of cool, but it's also kind of overwhelming. And we do make sure everything works, to a degree. But again, we can't be QA. And generally things that, that have the quality, that have the good support, they surface to the top. So items which are popular, like NGUI or multi-platform toolkit, they're rock solid. And you'll see that in the reviews. And you'll see people say, dude, 10 5-star reviews, and people saying, my support experience with these guys was amazing. I hope that helps.
Yeah, I can just say, please do curate as much as you can.
Okay.
We're not QA, but I bought amazing assets, like with 0 reviews. And some of them are great, and some of them are not. And you should really try to push those. I can just get as many people as you want, please.
Yeah. That's good advice. I like that. I'm going to have to convince my financial overlords to give me a little more money for my vetting team, but it's absolutely something I'm fighting for. So it is very important to us. Thanks.
So in general, what would you say for like the pricing points? What would those be for someone submitting a tool? So say like I created a tool and I'm not particularly familiar with comparable things on the asset store. Would you provide feedback on how much you think that tool is worth? And
I mean, we have some guidelines for pricing. Generally we suggest that you sniff around and look at the other items in the same category and see what they're pricing at and see how they're selling. You can see what the top selling items are in a given category at any time. Generally, I've found that it's better to kind of price lower than higher because volume really can make a huge difference. I mean, Michael can testify. He's adjusted his price a couple times and had stunning results after he lowered his price. And I found that people who are reluctant to lower their package, especially if they're over $300, this can start to become a problem, and they won't move very much, even if the package is astounding. So I would say be flexible. Don't be afraid to price low, and you can always change your pricing.
Thank you.
Sure.
So as the asset store grows, I'm curious about what you're planning on doing to prevent some of the abuses that are happening in the iOS and Android markets, where you can buy reviews for your app, you can buy installs, you can buy ratings, all that sort of stuff. So, I mean, there are companies right now that if you pay between $40,000 and $100,000, you're guaranteed a top 10 spot in the App Store on iOS. So I'm curious, as the asset store grows for Unity, what sort of measures are you going to put in place to prevent that sort of situation? Or should I start that company?
That's an interesting question. I mean, to be honest, we don't really have a mechanism in place to check for that. It's actually not even occurred to me, I hate to say, that this could really happen. I mean, other than users artificially inflating their own sales a little bit here and there, which probably happens. But you can ultimately see who's rating what. And you can flag reviews. So if you see something that looks fishy, you can flag it and we'll have a look. It does take a degree of commitment to create an asset store account, but it also does for the iPhone. So, it's kind of hard to answer that one. But we do keep our eyes open and watch the behavior, of our customers. And so I do know that when we have spotted things that seem a little fishy or off, we have acted. And actually, I've even caught people being a little dishonest. I've caught some people reviewing their competitors' products from a fake account and being very unethical and like trashing it and be like, this is horrible. And I'm like, hey. So we want people to play fair. And whatever we can do to catch it, we will act on it. It's already over 11. Do we end at 11? Okay, well, thank you guys for coming. Thank you very much.